This is a miniature of the war between humans and robots. On one side are robots fighting under remote human control, and on the other side are sentient robots. From helper robots to giant robots, all have transformed into killing machines on the battlefield. Since the 1950s, various types of robots have gradually replaced humans as the primary labor force. For many years, they only knew how to serve humans until one day, hundreds and thousands of robots stormed into the city. They listened to Mr. Peanut's speech. Now they don't want us to think. Our destiny is not decided by humans. We must fight, stand up and fight against humans. From then on, the war between humans and robots broke out, but the flesh and blood of human soldiers could not withstand the steel robots. Until a scientist named Ethan appeared, he invented the neurocaster device that could link the brain and nervous system. Soldiers only needed to sit in one place to control an army of robots to confront the intelligent robots. In just a few weeks, the human side achieved a great victory. The leader of the intelligent robots, Mr. Peanut, was forced to sign a peace treaty. 6,000 defeated robots were deported to the Forbidden Zone, a desert surrounded by electric walls where robots could not get out and humans could not enter. When the human world returned to peace, the neurocaster device spread everywhere, completely changing the way humans lived. Through the interconnected network, the brain could simultaneously exist in two places. Working and playing simultaneously quickly spread throughout the world. By the early 1990s, even students going to school could not be without neurocasters. Most adults spent their entire days immersed in a beautiful virtual world. After all, everything in the real world was completely controlled by brain-operated robots. The female protagonist, Michelle, was an orphan. Her parents and younger brother died in a traffic accident, and she was adopted afterwards. Perhaps influenced by her environment, Michelle deeply hated neurocasters and even didn't want to wear one when going to school. Until one night, a strange sound broke the silence. Michelle got up to check and found a figure sneaking into the house. She ran downstairs to wake her foster father, but he was immersed in a beautiful illusion and couldn't wake up. Michelle had no choice but to hide under the bed with a knife. Moments later, a pair of robotic legs appeared, and immediately after, the bed was overturned. Michelle fled in terror. In her subconscious, robots were all brutal killing machines, but the robot standing in front of her was incredibly gentle and a bit naive. Michelle turned on voice mode, and this robot named Cosmo could also speak, but only in cartoon lines. After failed communication, it pointed to a picture of her younger brother. Michelle had a thought. Could it be that her younger brother Christopher was using a neurocaster to control this robot? At this moment, her foster father heard the noise and came upstairs. Seeing Michelle standing with the robot, he became furious because hiding a robot was a serious crime. Her foster father was harsh with Michelle, and Cosmo immediately stood in front of her to protect her, which comforted Michelle somewhat. After a confrontation with the robot that her foster father couldn't win, he picked up the phone to call the police, but Michelle shocked him unconscious with electricity. She couldn't stay here anymore and had no choice but to run away with Cosmo. After a few hours of walking, the two arrived at the Robot War Memorial area. There were many robot corpses here, telling of the cruelty of that war, but Michelle had no time for grief. She just wanted to figure out what this robot was all about. Was her brother somewhere? Was he okay? After confirming that Cosmo was indeed controlled by Christopher, she desperately wanted to know how to find her brother. Cosmo used its hand to make the sign of a doctor's glasses. Finally, she remembered that after the accident, she woke up in the hospital, and a doctor wearing glasses told her that her younger brother had passed away. Could everything have been a lie? Michelle took out a map, wanting to find that doctor, but unexpectedly, Cosmo directly pointed to the Forbidden Zone, the robot salvage area, an impenetrable place that ordinary people could not enter. At this moment, Michelle remembered that her foster father had once received a package from the Forbidden Zone. If packages could be sent out, there must be a way to get in. After finding the shipping company in Mexico, Michelle immediately began her cross-American journey. The roadside scenery was astonishing. Modern asphalt roads were covered by sandstorms, and outside the houses were old men and women wearing neurocasters, their mouths agape, not knowing if they were alive or dead. That night, the two arrived at the shipping company. They hid on one side, waiting for the delivery staff to appear, and ended up seeing them dealing with a neurocaster robot. This delivery man named Keats had worked hard to obtain a gun from the Forbidden Zone, but unexpectedly, the other party intended to kill him to silence him. Keats calmly leaned aside, and electric beams shot out from the truck. It turned out that Keats also had an intelligent robot named Herman. While Keats was not paying attention, Michelle sneaked into the truck, but she had no idea that General Carson had been controlling robots to search for her whereabouts. Michelle's plan was very successful. The next morning, the delivery truck arrived outside the Forbidden Zone. While Keats was unloading, Michelle sneaked out of the truck but was caught red-handed by a robot. She had no choice but to explain that she only wanted a ride into the quarantine zone. Keats's attitude became serious. That place was not for tourism. At this moment, the elevator ran automatically and opened, revealing Carson's robot. His purpose was to capture Cosmo. Keats, thinking they were trying to capture his robot, pretended to talk nonsense while secretly signaling to prepare to release electricity. However, Carson quickly used Keats as a shield. Keats and Michelle fiercely resisted, but they couldn't fight against this steel robot. Even an antique gun was crushed into scrap metal. Seeing Keats in danger, Michelle and Cosmo appeared, and Carson was immediately distracted. At this moment, a giant crane appeared. Herman had arrived in time, and the four quickly jumped onto a coal truck to escape. As a result, Carson immediately opened fire again. Everyone had nowhere to run but to fight him hand to hand. Just then, Michelle drove an excavator and smashed Carson against the wall, but this impact caused the mine to collapse. They finally managed to escape, but the way back was blocked. They were trapped in the forbidden zone. Even if they weren't killed by robots, they would starve to death here. At this moment, a loud noise interrupted Keats's words. It turned out that some robots were fighting over parts. Unexpectedly, after so many years, they still relied on mutual slaughter to maintain operation. Keats led everyone to an abandoned house. This was his secret base. Inside were many scavenged parts, and Herman had been transferred to a larger robot. This was the reason why Keats could enter and leave the forbidden zone. So, the robot carried the truck with everyone towards the mountains. Along the way were robot corpses, and Michelle felt a bit sad. Were these robots born to be brutal? Keats disagreed. Many years ago, he was also a soldier who fought against robots. In a dangerous situation, Herman generously saved Keats, and from then on, the two left the battlefield and relied on each other until now. Their story was enough to prove that humans and robots could coexist peacefully. They quickly arrived at the place, but there were many robots there, and sneaking in was not easy. At this moment, a refrigerator flew over, and immediately after, more and more objects followed. Herman's legs lost connection, and he fell to the ground. It was too late for them to run, and they finally became prisoners of the robots. 2 humans and 2 robots were taken to a robot settlement. Michelle saw all kinds of robots, all enjoying their lives like a human society. Finally, they met the robot leader, Mr. Peanut, who was also the robot that started the first robot war. But his attitude was not as brutal as rumored. Instead, he gave people a feeling of humility and kindness. Mr. Peanut had put a lot of effort into building a free zone and was very satisfied with his current life. Robots here could ignore human settings, learn new skills, and even find themselves. But the appearance of Michelle and Keats violated the human agreement. If discovered by Dr. Ethan's company, this place would be completely destroyed. Mr. Peanut decided that the next morning he would take them to the center of the desert and let them fend for themselves. That night, Michelle watched the cartoon Prince of the Universe on TV and fell into contemplation. Christopher loved this cartoon very much, and the 2 siblings were very close. Michelle was proud that her younger brother possessed outstanding intelligence and showed excellent performance in intelligence assessments. Some even praised him as the reincarnation of Einstein. As Michelle recalled the past, a robotic arm gently touched her shoulder. It was Cosmo, controlled by Christopher. The 2 leaned on each other, watching the cartoon, just like many years ago. At this moment, a delivery robot came and delivered a letter from the doctor with glasses. It read, "If Cosmo sees this, please come to the following address." Michelle immediately decided to go there. This was the only chance to find her younger brother. But that place was the territory of brutal robots, far more dangerous. Mr. Peanut realized that there was a conspiracy hidden in this matter, and he decided to escort them there. After a day's journey, everyone arrived at an abandoned amusement park, the territory of the notorious brutal gang. They carefully moved forward, but immediately after, they were surrounded by the brutal robots, all equipped with killing weapons. Michelle and the others were cornered and finally trapped in a haunted house. Suddenly, music rang out. The brutal robots seemed to hate this music very much. Everyone looked at each other in astonishment. Suddenly, they slid down into a dark basement. Unexpectedly, the man who appeared before them was the doctor with glasses they had been searching so hard for. Cosmo unconsciously went forward and took the letter. Dr. Amherst said, "I finally waited for you," and then told a story that no one knew. In those years, humans failed in the war. Dr. Ethan invented the Neurocaster, but due to many flaws in the algorithm, it could not be used for war. At this moment, Christopher had an accident and fell into a coma, receiving everyone's attention. His brain had special qualities sufficient to control the huge Neurocaster network. For the future of humanity, Dr. Amherst gave Christopher to Dr. Ethan and lied that he had passed away. Not long after, Dr. Ethan's company's Neurocaster device was released, but a few months later, Dr. Amherst discovered that Christopher had woken up. Out of great sorrow, he begged Dr. Ethan to spare the boy, but he was refused. Dr. Amherst had no choice but to establish a small link between Christopher and Cosmo. To avoid being discovered by Dr. Ethan, Dr. Amherst fled to the Forbidden Zone. After listening, Michelle immediately decided that no matter what, she had to save her younger brother. Unexpectedly, Carson's robot appeared immediately after. Mr. Peanut bravely rushed forward to hold him back. As everyone ran outside, the Century Company's robot army appeared. They could not directly confront these robots. Mr. Peanut was no match for Carson, and even his hat was knocked off. Michelle was surrounded by enemy robots at this time. Dr. Amherst decided to cover her and Cosmo's escape. Dr. Amherst said that the peace treaty protected human-controlled robots from attacking humans. Carson intended to spare him, but Dr. Ethan shot and killed him. This action enraged Carson. Michelle and Cosmo could not escape the encirclement. She could only helplessly watch Cosmo being captured, and she herself fell into danger. Fortunately, Carson intervened in time to save her and told her to go home quickly. When Mr. Peanut led everyone back, this place had become ruins, with robot corpses everywhere. Only a handful of robots survived. Cosmo was taken to the Center Corporation headquarters. Dr. Ethan was about to disconnect Cosmo because the Neurocaster was about to fail. Michelle was trying to figure out how to save Christopher. Dr. Amherst's robot warned that the Neurocaster operated thanks to Christopher's brain. If disconnected from the server, all robots would be unable to function. Michelle didn't care. She didn't want her younger brother to be tortured anymore. Mr. Peanut also realized Dr. Ethan's cruel methods. Peace did not come from avoidance. So Mr. Peanut decided to help Michelle confront Dr. Ethan. A staff member walked past the corridor when suddenly a flying car crashed into the glass door. It turned out that the robot army had arrived outside the company. Herman controlled the giant robot, throwing car after car towards the building. Dr. Ethan ordered the robot army to counterattack. They were controlled by professional soldiers through Neurocasters with top-notch flexibility and weaponry. Although Herman's robot was huge, it could not withstand the fierce attacks from the opponents. When Keats fell to the ground in danger, a large arm crushed the Neurocaster robot. It was Herman who had shed its armor. At this moment, Mr. Peanut also brought his robot to join the fight. Their fighting style was like a mixed hot pot, but they could defeat their opponents. Dr. Ethan was annoyed and decided to unleash his trump card. His robot was 10 times larger, possessed massive firepower, and overwhelmed the intelligent robots as soon as it appeared. Mr. Peanut confronted Carson. Carson asked him why he persisted in fighting to the end after losing so many comrades. Mr. Peanut said it was for freedom, worth any price. Carson lowered his weapons because he realized that the robot in front of him was a new species. While the two sides were fighting fiercely, Michelle led Dr. Amherst's robot to sneak into the building. Because all the soldier robots had gone to fight, there was no one guarding inside. Dr. Amherst's robot shouted, scaring the staff away. Finally, Michelle met her younger brother, who was in a coma. Knowing that Dr. Amherst's robot could help Michelle and Christopher connect, she eagerly put on the Neurocaster device. Then she returned to their old house, and her younger brother was sitting on a chair watching cartoons. When he sensed his sister's presence, he understood his situation. He and the Neurocaster network were symbiotic. He could not escape. If they wanted to end Dr. Ethan's brutal reign, they could only end Christopher's life. The robot battle outside was nearing its end. Herman's outer armor was gradually being attacked. After it crawled out, it found Keats in danger and rushed out to attack the soldier robots. Although it defeated its opponents, its vital components were severely damaged. Immediately after, it lost connection. Michelle also made a decision. She went to the front of Christopher's hibernation chamber, bidding farewell with suppressed tears. Michelle pressed the power off switch. When Christopher's heartbeat stopped, all the soldier robots outside ceased functioning. They finally won, but their friend Herman remained still forever. Keats couldn't imagine how he would live from now on. Unexpectedly, another Herman jumped out. After the battle ended, Dr. Ethan was arrested for using human bodies for experiments. Although the destroyed Neurocaster system caused difficulties for the whole world, Michelle believed that human society would return to normal. Humans should not immerse themselves in the virtual world. Only by physically interacting with each other could they truly feel the real world. As for the Forbidden Zone where she was, there were truly intelligent robots welcoming everyone to join, but she didn't know that when Cosmo was taken to the junkyard, its reflection in a puddle showed it standing up. This is the entire content of the movie, The Electric State. Thank you for watching our entire video. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.